Okay, thank you very much for reassembling. And we'll continue with a few more questions. We do have some time before closing remarks. Let me go back to a couple questions that are more specific. We have a question regarding the Burnham Strip property. What are your views on using this as a park? Hoping that you can speak to this along Granada's ocean front. And we'll start with, we'll start with Aaron.
Oh, no. You're obviously going to hear me say, Joel. I'm really honestly going to step aside on this. I have nothing to add.
That's fine. Dave?
The Burnham Strip would certainly be one of the first properties that the Granada CSD, is that the name they're going to use, would manage as parklands, I assume. It's currently owned by the GSD because of the holding tanks that were placed underneath there. So, yeah, I'd like to see it developed as a park more than just the skateboard and maybe some more facilities in there.
Thank you. And Chris?
Yes. So yes, the Burnham Strip is in the plans for the Community Service District, should that come about. I am in favor of some park opportunities on the Burnham Strip. But I think it's important to look at the history of the Burnham Strip as it was originally created. The whole layout of El Granada is basically an amphitheater looking down at the ocean with the Burnham Strip as the stage of which the ocean lies behind it. Now, of course, that was in 1904, 1906. A lot of development has happened since that time, and it's no longer the same amphitheater that it was. But I guarantee you that residents of El Granada feel that that view across the Burnham Strip is one of the great jewels of the coast side in El Granada. But time does not stand still, and there are some structures on there right now, and we do need additional recreational opportunities. So yes, I think that the Burnham Strip is appropriate for some limited recreational opportunities, especially if they're going to be associated with the CSD.
Thank you so much.
I wasn't looking.
And Joel?
I support it. I think it's a good idea. I think it would be interesting to see that fleshed out a little bit. Within reason, as long as it is balanced. But I don't think there's any problem with having a park or expanding it from just the skateboard and the thrift shop marketing. But I'm in favor of it.
Thank you, Joel. Okay, our next question. We'd like you to comment on the degree of development in light of the current population size on Midcoast. Would you say that we are just about right, too much, too little? I'd like your opinions on that issue. And we'll start with Chris.
So I've lived here 11 years, and what my personal feeling is that over the last 11 years, development has been just about right. No growth is not practical, and nor do I feel any growth at any pattern that's more accelerated than currently exists. I mean, we are limited by the LCP. The LCP puts specific restrictions on how fast development can go. So there's only so fast that it can go. And I think that the LCP has done an excellent job of managing growth on the coast. There needs to be some growth, but not too much. I will say that I've lived in a lot of small towns, a lot of beautiful towns. I've seen a couple of them ruined by growth. If there does need to be growth, we should look at infill, and I strongly believe that we should follow the provisions of the LCP as regarding growth. My feeling on it is it's just about right.
Thank you. And Erin?
Well, having only been here a year, that's kind of a difficult question for me to answer. But I will say that to me, there are three kind of basic different types of development. There's residential, there's commercial, and there's recreational. And I think that they're all relevant and all important to the residents of the community. And so in this particular regard, I would look to, you know, if I end up serving on the council, I would look to, you know, the knowledge of my colleagues who have clearly been here longer than I have.
Thank you. And we'll move to Joel.
I'm comfortable with the current rate of growth as I've seen it since I've been here. But it's it's a much broader question than that. What type of growth are we talking about? Are we talking about commercial growth or residential growth or parklands growth? Or for the most part, I'm comfortable with the way that the growth has been so far.
Thank you. And Dave?
Well, I'm going to disagree with everyone. I'm not comfortable with the amount of development that's happened on the coast, mostly because of where it's been located. I think we do need residential growth. We need commercial growth. We need recreational growth for sure. We've all echoed that. Personally, I would rather not see any more commercial growth along the coastline, not if it's going to block views and access. But commercial access is an infill, commercial growth is an infill, sorry. Residential growth as permitted by the LCP, I'm fine with all of that. I think overall development rates have been about right.
Thank you. I'd like to combine a couple of questions from the audience to hear your comments in general. What are your views on noise and light pollution that are happening on the coast? Specifically, leaf blowers, power saws, etc., and the inability to see some of the stars that they're used to seeing in this area. And we'll start the comments with Joel.
As a longtime resident of Moss Beach, I never see the stars. Or almost never see the stars. And, I'm sorry not to make light of that, but it's just funny to me. Noise is definitely an issue, and it depends on where it's going to be at. I personally don't have an issue with leaf blowers, but I know that there needs to be a little bit finer point on what are the noise ordinances, what's enforceable, who's it enforceable by, things like that. Light pollution, the only light pollution that I could think of would be like from the nursery. I don't think light pollution is really an issue. As I said, I don't see the stars that much, so I have to go camping to enjoy them.
Okay, thank you, Joel. And Chris?
Yeah, noise pollution from leaf blowers and lawnmowers, I just don't see that as an issue. Those are things that occur in every community, even the most picturesque, beautiful communities in the world. Personally, again, lead by example, I don't own any kind of power tools. I have a push mower, I have a little edger, I clip anything else, and a son. So I don't believe in leaf blowers and lawnmowers because of greenhouse gas emissions. I think it's wasteful. It's not necessary. You can do that with human power. As far as light pollution, as a member of the Coastline Design Review Committee, one of the standards that we follow is dark sky lighting on any new construction. That's to prevent light shining upward and obscuring the upward view. Also, I know that the MCC has written a letter addressing spotlights at some of the restaurants along the coast. Those lights are quite bright, and as pointed out in the MCC letter, they are in violation, apparent violation of the LCP. So I think that those specific instances of light pollution need to be addressed.
Thank you, Chris. And lastly, Dave?
Well, personally, I don't like leaf blowers. I was in Palo Alto during the big leaf blower wars and the results. I don't even want to touch that issue on the coast. As long as they're used during daytime, I have no problem with it. Light pollution is a much more serious issue. It varies everything from street lighting. A number of communities, particularly around Lake Observatory in San Jose, have redone their street lighting to cause less light pollution. I would certainly support doing that here. We have a lot of people who have spotlights on at night who don't need it. We have neighbors who don't like it because even when we do have mist, it lights up the mist and gives a rather strange appearance. We have the UFO look over the nursery when it's misty, for example. So, yeah, we'd all like to reduce that, but it is costly to reduce it. I certainly support reducing it wherever possible.
All right, thank you. And so that we can end on time, this will be the last question before your closing remarks. So, in general, what would you say would be your skills and experience that you would bring to the council, and how would you help its functioning? And we'll start with Dave.
All right. Well, I have over 25 years of experience in the computer industry, and I've spent an awful lot of that time running projects, building consensus, and delivering results. And I certainly can bring that to the community council. I don't think we have a lot of fighting in this council, or will have a lot of fighting in this council. I know it's happened in the past, but I'm generally pretty good at consensus. I'm also really skilled at researching issues, and I would certainly apply that to any problem that came before the community council.
Thank you, Dave. And Joel?
For skills and experience, professionally, like I said, I've worked on the coast for the last 10 years in the tourism industry. I've had the opportunity to not only employ a lot of locals, but also speak with a lot of people that are coming through Half Moon Bay, have been coming through Half Moon Bay for several years, have decided to stay in Half Moon Bay or here along the coast. So it's an interesting perspective and a little bit of input on my side. I have a relatively heavy project management background as far as being able to help out with the MCC with a lot of the issues that are going on, look at the, the scope of what they have on their plate now. And I'm also, I've been a long time local. I know a lot of the local people. I have coffee with a lot of the local people, and it's enjoyable to be able to work on their behalf.
Thank you. And Erin?
I feel like I have a unique perspective, although now maybe after talking to these two gents, not so much, because apparently we all came from Southern California and are now living up here. But what that has let me personally is the opportunity to see what it was like to live in San Diego and watch what it became from what it was. And it wasn't the place that I grew up. And then when I came up here and I found wide open spaces and people where you could go, places where you could go hiking, and neighbors who came over to introduce themselves to you when you moved in. Those types of personal experiences I feel are valuable. The other thing is, as I mentioned earlier, is I have spent the last 3 years working for the Bay Area Travel Writers as their event and programs coordinator. And I know what it's like to work within an organization and to work with people of vastly different backgrounds, and to get things accomplished that better the organization.
Thank you. And lastly on this topic, Chris?
Experiences and skills. Well, experiences, as an anecdote, I've been to all 50 states. I've driven to 49 of them. I've driven to Alaska and back twice. And the reason that I feel that that is relevant is I live and love small towns and the details that go along with them. I observe them. They're very poignant to me, and that's why I love driving so much and taking driving trips and tuning the radio. I don't have satellite radio. Tuning the radio. What's the hog report? In going on in this small town in Nebraska. That kind of interest in those kinds of details, I think, translates very well to this semi-rural setting. As far as skills, my occupation is built upon communication skills, and I feel that my whole career has dealt with communication skills. I have a very good ear for hearing what people are saying, for effectively capturing that and representing it in an accurate way, and processing my own thoughts and presenting them in a clear way that people can understand.
Thank you so much. Thank you to all the candidates, and thanks to the audience as well. We will now be moving to the closing statements. I'd like to take a moment at this time to let everyone know that you can find additional information about the candidates for this office and candidates for all offices throughout the county on the League's website, smartvoter.org. Candidates have been invited to enter their information and to add a link to their own websites. The League is always interested in new members, of course, and if anyone is interested, you can speak to any of the League members who are here tonight or grab some of our information that's on the table. Alternatively, you can call our office. Our line is 650-342-5853. I'd like to remind you to vote on November 5th and encourage others to vote as well. Alternatively, if you don't go into your precinct, be sure you get your mail-in ballot mailed on time. If you miss the mailing day, remember you can walk into any precinct within the county and just drop it in the ballot box. Additionally, which some people don't know, I would remind you that California law does allow you to vote up to 29 days prior to the election. The county website, shapethefuture.org, says that they will have the e-slate machines available at 40 Tower Road in San Mateo and 555 County Center in Redwood City during regular business hours, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, over those days. So for the closing remarks, again, we have 2 minutes. We'll go in reverse order from the opening statements. So we will start closing statements with Dave.
Well, I think I've said most of what needs to be said in answer to the questions and during the opening statements. The only thing I would say that is I am dedicated to keeping the Midcoast livable for our residents, and I will certainly be open to anybody in the community who wants to raise an issue and do my best to get that issue addressed.
Thank you so much. Next will be Chris.
Yes, so to repeat, I grew up in a small town. I understand the dynamics. I also understand how quickly the wonderful things that draw people to a beautiful small town can end up ruining it. It's a bit of a catch-22. I've seen a small town ruin, specifically Flagstaff, Arizona. So I know how quickly it can happen without a long-range vision. I also think that, as the last question I answered, I bring a unique skill set that will work well in this role. Communications-based and a real attention to the details of semi-rural, small-town living. I also want to say that one of the reasons that I'm running for this office is because I have the opportunity to give back right now, to do public service in a way that I never have before. And I'm very excited about that. I feel very, very strongly about what I would call the greater good. And I feel that all of the candidates here who are going to volunteer their time for this committee, for this council, are doing it for the greater good. I've talked to each of these people. I think they're great people. They're going to do an excellent job, and they have their hearts and minds in the right place. And I want to tell you as the voters that I do as well. I am committed to the Coast Side. I'm committed to the people of the Coast Side and continuing to have it be a great place to live. And if elected, I promise to you that I will give it my 100% effort as I would any other part of my life, and you have my total commitment for the work that's required for this job. Thank you.
Thank you. And then we'll move to Erin.
Well, first I'd like to say thank you to everybody, and thank you for all of the questions, even the ones that stumped me. And also thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting and coordinating. In closing, I just wanted to say 2 things. People ask me why it was that I signed up to run, and I have 2 answers to that question. And the first one is that I'm the type of person that would rather be proactive than reactive. I feel like I would rather be involved at the beginning of an issue rather than scrambling to catch up at the end of one. And the second part is because, for better or worse, depending on your perspective, I have a son who desperately wants to be a Navy SEAL. And I am in the process of talking to him about that on a pretty much daily basis. And I found it extremely difficult to have him talk about offering to serve his country and not at least serve my community. So those are the reasons.
Thank you, Erin. And lastly, be Joel.
I just want to take this opportunity to say thank you to everybody. As I mentioned earlier, I'm not the best public speaker. I'm thinking maybe I should employ Chris in the future to write some of my comments. I'm very excited about the opportunity that may or may not have come across, but I'm very honored as well to be able to participate in the community. It's a fantastic opportunity, and the other candidates, thank you as well. This has been an amazing experience, and I think it's only going to get better. And I look forward to more questions in the future, so thank you.
Thank you all so much. This time I'd like to ask the audience to give the candidates a round of applause for this evening. Laura, I'm not sure if you need to officially close your meeting of Midcoast Community Council, or if you'd like me to say goodnight.
I just want to announce our next forum.
Absolutely.
Which is for the Granada Sanitary District, and confirm for me that's October 9th. Is that correct? Okay, it'll be October 9th in this room. It'll be a Wednesday at 7 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you all. Good night.
You as well.
Great job.
Congratulations.
That's a sentiment I can echo.
Candidates.